A single image that says so much. Patrick Hutchinson, personal trainer, grandfather, and it's been said, British hero.
I just want equality, equality for, all of us. At the moment, the scales are unfairly balanced, and I just want things to be, fair, for my children and my grandchildren,
I was protecting our kids. I was protecting their future, because I know the judge would not have saw what happened before.
We were there to serve a purpose. Myself, Jay, Patrick came straight in, as he said, assessed his situation straight away, picked him up, and we just tried to do what we could to get him back to hand him back to the safest place that he could go.
We couldn't just stay there and stay at home and just not do nothing, you know what I mean? So we came down and then did what we had to do, We came protected our people. We couldn't just stay there and stay at home and just not do nothing, you know what I mean? So we came down and then did what we had to do, We came protected our people. Couldn't just stay there and stay at home and just not do nothing, you know what I mean? So we came down and then did what we had to do, We came protected our people. Couldn't just stay there and stay at home.
And you're muted.
You're on mute as well, Chris.
Good afternoon. Apologies for the technical difficulties we've just had. My name is Chris Roy. Many of you will recognise the face from the previous streams. Today we are going through the third of 4 live stream events that make up part of the Dentsu International Black History Month activities. Today we are lucky to be joined by a face that you're probably all very familiar with, Patrick Hutchinson. But also we'll be talking to Patrick's team about what they're doing as a collective in order to advance some of the issues that we're seeing today in society as a whole. So I'd like to introduce you all, guys, on the UTCAI side. So today we have Patrick Hutchinson, we have Chris Otokito, Jamaine, Facey, Lee Russell, and Richard Pascal. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Dean.
Right, so let's kind of get into it. Let's June the 13th, something happened that I think has changed arguably the world. There was an event that took place as part of the Black Lives Matter march and campaigning. And Patrick, you and your friends happen to find yourselves there. So just from you guys, and I don't want to keep this focused on just Patrick, because I know collectively you guys are all responsible for doing some pretty amazing things on that day. But perhaps first start with Patrick and just kind of understand from you, what before we start talking about what you actually did, but what the Black Lives Matter march actually means to you guys. Why were you there? Why was it important for you guys to be there? And I'll open the floor.
Well, I mean, I'll start. So again, hi to you, Chris, and hi to everybody at Dentsu. So that's a very open-ended question. My personal beliefs regarding Black Lives Matter is that we are not members of Black Lives Matters, for the record, because I know it's reported that we are and that we're a part of the organization, but we're not. For me, I'm very appreciative of what Black Lives Matter have done for us as a whole, because they are probably the biggest influence in having this discussion on the table now for equality and racism, this open debate we're now having. I think they have definitely they have been pivotal in this whole thing. So I absolutely respect and am thankful for the platform they've now given us all to be able to now take part in. But going down on the day in terms of the demonstrations, you know, we actually went down as overseers, not really to partake in the demonstrations. It was Jamaine Facey of the four of us that got us together as a collective to go down there. And we just felt that, I think Jamaine said on many occasions that we see this as our children's time, the younger adults, it's their time now. And we're sort of in the background, sort of overseeing them to make sure that no one does anything silly, anything they're going to regret later on. And we just want to be there as a support, you know, moral support.
And so, Jamaine, it would seem a logical thing for a black person to attend a Black Lives Matters march. I think we're all clear on why we would do that. Clearly, your purposes for attending that march were slightly different. Can you just kind of help me to explain what was going through your mind when you were making decisions to bring you guys together and do something very different to what everyone else was doing that day?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us as well. Thank you ever so much. It was way before just watching it on TV in America, seeing how people they're not scared of, the virus, i.e. COVID-19, is supposed to be a very deadly virus, but they saw that racism is more of a killer to our society and our people. And that's some of the things I was actually just saying, how where they didn't care about the COVID. They wanted to go out there to protect and protest against the injustice, what's going on out there. So the time I'm watching it, and then he came over to England, and then and a couple of marches happened, and then I went down there on the occasion when the police officer, they rushed the kids, and one of the horses went a little bit crazy, and the lady got hit off the horse. So I was standing right in front of when it happened, and I was just looking around, and all I could see is just young energy, young kids. And I was looking, I couldn't see many adults, big adults, old overseers. I couldn't see nothing. I'm just standing on my bike in the rain, just watching everything going on. The police coming out, manhandling young ladies, young men, young boys. Just don't. All what they're doing is a freedom speech, doing a peaceful march and a peaceful protest. And then now they're getting kettled, and they got kettled from 5:30 to 1:30 a.m. locked in that one spot in the rain. So when I went home, it was going through my mind all the time, watching some of the highlights on video on the news and stuff. And then I saw the Tommy Robinson shout out. I call him a terrorist because that's what his speech sounds like. And he asked for the football hooligans to come out and protect a statue what is boarded up against a peaceful protest. And then I heard that Black Lives Matter has cancelled their march. But I knew if I was 20 years old, I still would be going up there. So when I put a big shout out saying, guys, go up there and oversee our kids, because our time, like Pat said, and I've said it many times, our time is gone. We turn the other cheek. We just, okay, whatever. You give me this, we take it. But the kids of today, they're not taking it. They're not taking no. I was gonna swear, but I'm not. Sorry, but they're not taking it no more. So they are rebelling. So when I got the guys together, I walked to Brixton after I put my shout out, and literally I stood in Brixton by the tube station by myself. No one was there. All the people I know, nobody was there to come up there. It was a nice hot day, so half of them was probably in Brockwell Park, in Clapham Common, drinking, having a great time. And I was standing there thinking, I'm disgusted with some of our community. And then I got the phone call, Pat's on his way down. Literally, I was just about to walk in the tube, and then Pat said, yeah, he's on his way down. One of my other mates said, yeah, I'm coming. And then we got together, we drove to Vauxhall, parked our cars up, and then walked over the bridge, and we could see the beginning of the melee of what's going to happen in the whole day. The police officers wouldn't let us through one area. They were saying, no, we can't go through. We see the EDL screaming, shouting, spitting, doing all the great stuff that they like to do. And then, so we couldn't get through. All the roads were blocked off, and we walked back, and that's when we met was Chris and Lee, and then we all just jumped in the tube and got over to where the story really begins, you know.
Right. And so the group of you that you pulled together, are you, before this, were you guys a unit? Were you guys doing stuff in the communities, or was this event the birth of that coming together?
Yeah, this event was actually the birthing of us coming together and the you know, the new initiative UTCAI. But prior to that, we've all been working in the community doing various different things, and we've always sort of had the same outlook on life. And so myself and Jamaine, we've known each other for over 25 years. I know that Lee and Chris knew each other prior to today. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yep. My mic's gone a bit funny. And but I hadn't met Chris or Lee prior to today, so I met them for the first time, and now I count them as you know, brothers of mine, you know, as if I've known them for many years, because we're all very like-minded individuals. We're all fathers. We're all doting fathers. We love our children to bits. They're the most important things in our lives. And me, I'm a doting grandfather as well. And yeah, we're all reading from the same hymn book. So it made total sense to for the birth of UTCAI.
So you guys are there. You're there for the right reasons. You're not necessarily there to protest. You're there to ensure that the young people who potentially have a bit more energy and a bit more aggression are protected and advised. So this kind of brings us to that kind of pivotal moment in UTCAI and with you, Patrick, where what I'm not going to summarize it. Let me give it to you. What actually happened? You're in the area. You can see stuff going off. Just kind of walk us through what happened on the day.
So on the day, you know, there were various altercations and incidents that took place, which we were party to and that we helped to defuse. There was a young man graffitiing with a fist template. He had a fist template, and he was graffitiing all over the place and right in front of the police. And he was just about to be arrested. Well, in fact, he was. The police had him, roughing him up, and Jamaine intervened along with Chris. And Jamaine, you know, he intervened, said to the police, just leave it be. I'll talk to him. He looked the young man, you know, square in his face and said, you know, what are you doing? Police are here. You know, what you're doing is wrong, and you're going to be arrested, and then you're going to regret it. And then the young man looked at Jamaine, listened to what he said, gave his apparatus, or whatever you call it, over to the police, the spray can and all the rest of it, and went on his merry way. So that was one situation that we diffused that could have gone, you know, really bad for that young man. There was another young man who was set upon by a group of angry protesters because they thought he was a member of EDL, which he wasn't. And we diffused that. We stopped that from happening, and he could have got seriously hurt. And there was a car with two people driving through the crowd, like trying to run people over almost. And people started shouting EDL, EDL, and they started to attack the car. We diffused that situation. We stopped them wrecking the car. You know, so there was a lot of things that happened on the day which wasn't caught on camera. And then obviously that incident that now is known world over. And we were having a bit of a conversation about some of the things that had just happened, and then we noticed, you know, a few feet away from us, that there was a man looked a bit drunk by himself, with a lot of Black Lives Matters protesters, and it appeared that he had just been in a scuffle with them, with a load of the EDL protesters, and they'd run off and left him by himself. And there were a few people. Like a Rasta man was one of the main guys that was trying to protect him, trying to tell people to leave him alone. But you know, more and more people had become aware of what was happening and what had happened, and that there was this, like, you know, Lone Ranger here by himself. And then they all started to congregate on the area, and we saw this, and we just thought, we've got to get over there really quickly. So we rushed over there, and you know, we had no plan. We just went over there to try and, you know, see what we could do. And in doing so, the guys managed to sort of build a little barrier around the man. By this time, he was sort of halfway, he was down to the bottom of the stairs, okay? I think he'd been hoisted up, and he then put on his back, and he was on the floor, and then there was loads and loads of people around him. The guys were literally throwing people out of the way, and they managed to sort of get put a little barrier around him. And then I was the last one in. I just scooped him up and put him over my shoulder and walked him out of there to the police.
So where were the police when this was happening then? Well, clearly the whole place was heavily policed. They would have probably been around, in and around the action. Did you get anything from the police when this was happening?
The police were there in their drove. There was lots of police, but they were filming basically and watching the events take place, unfold, and just using their facial recognition cameras, you know, collecting data so they could probably arrest people in a few days. Right. So what's happened since? I think the $1 million question, and it's probably a question you've been asked a number of times before, but you know, I don't know the gentleman's name that you guys rescued. Has there been any contact? Has he reached out and thanked you for anything? There's been no contact. I haven't heard from him directly or anything like that. I did hear that his son, I think, and may have had a message in the Metro, one of the papers, sort of thanking me for, you know, for saving his dad, but I haven't heard anything directly from, I think his name is Bryn Mail. I've heard nothing from him. Right. And what would be your reaction if you did hear from him? I mean, you know, personally, you know, my life goes on. We did what we had to do at the time. I did what I had to do at the time. Regardless of anyone's belief system, I'm not going to stand there and watch someone come to harm when I know I can do something about it. But outside of that, I have nothing to say to him, to be honest. I mean, like I've said on numerous occasions, I'd like to know what he might have to say to me or to us as a collective, but I really have no interest at this point, you know. Right. And so clearly a lot has changed in your life now. Your life is, I think, collectively, but you in particular, Pat, your life is unrecognizable now. You know, we've seen you on the front cover of Vogue, the front cover of Men's Health magazine. And that kind of leads us on to the next section where I'd like to kind of understand how you're using this platform to affect change. Now, I know that you've collectively formed a group called UTCAI. Could one of you just kind of give me, maybe Troy, kind of give me a rundown as to what UTCAI is about, and then maybe we'll kind of dig down into the various pillars that make up UTCAI. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thanks to the audience and for giving us this platform. Like many, I was amazed at what Patrick and the other three gentlemen did on that day. We were taken aback by what he had accomplished and what he had achieved in terms of rescuing someone. From that point of view, I'd known Jamaine for many years, and I'd spoken to Jamaine after the event had happened. And the question I'd asked the guys were, what were you planning to do with this new platform? And they were basically there just being interviewed on a regular basis. But what were we going to do with that? So I spoke to Jamaine. I thought, being a brand specialist, I've been working in the brand industry for over 20 plus years. And I spoke to him about, let's try and do something with this platform. Let's try and create something which would be change and how we can move from there. Now, looking at what Patrick done, from my personal point of view, it showed the best of humanity. I thought that was something which was integral, which is in all of us. And what would we do with that platform? So from there, we decided, I looked at that image, and that image, which was just static. You didn't particularly want that image just to remain static. It needed to be something that needed to be empowering, something that needed to be dynamic. And that's the reason why I decided to talk to all the gentlemen and said, let's do something moving forward. From there, I got in touch with my other business partner, Mr. Richard Pascoe, and we decided to have a conversation with the guys and just come up with some ideas. So we sat down, had a brainstorm. And originally, the names that the gentleman wanted to use were Fathers for Change. And we decided that using Fathers for Change would alienate too many people. United seemed a perfect fit in terms of if we are looking to create change, we need to create change as a collective. So the first name of United came out, and change was a name that constantly revolved in all our minds, that if we're united and we're looking to do change, hopefully those change that these four gentlemen will be doing will inspire the next generation. Hence, United to Change and Inspired was born. From there, we decided to create the four individual pillars, which Patrick will be looking after education, Chris will be looking after mental health and well-being, Lee will be looking after youth development, and Jamaine will be looking after reform. And we thought those four pillars, it's expansive in terms of what we need to do moving forward. So from each of those pillars, as a collective, we will be able to work with other people. We will be able to build alliance with companies around the world and see what we can do to make change within each territory, each area, whatever we need to do, that we can personally get together and do that. So that was the main reason why I came on board, and the guys, they embraced the idea. And from there, it's just been, you know, an ongoing, and we've been absolutely amazed by the support that the world on a whole has been given to the guys. And, you know, long may it continue, because at the end of the day, we can't do this without everyone being on board and taking on board what Patrick did. The idea of the brand, of that particular static image, was something we thought symbolized change. So if we remove the word UTCAI from that image, it could mean strength. It can mean change. It can mean empowerment. It means that we can call out wherever we see injustice, anyone can speak out. And I believe what Patrick did symbolizes that. We all look at life as sacred. And if we can remember that in all that we do, then hopefully this change will move forward. So that was
And before we go into the pillars themselves, can I just kind of, the rest of the team, what does UTCAI mean to you? And feel free, whichever one of you wants to respond first, but I'm just keen to understand kind of the more of the collective dynamic and what this means to you as individuals.
I'll take this on. To me personally, UTCAI, I mean, as I say, United, is all based on the actions, basically. We're united because myself and Troy, we've been actively doing things on the outside as well. So it's like we've all come together. What Jamaine did, he united the guys together to go there one day. So it's all about being in unity with each other. That's the first thing. The change part was like, I always call it like working in the media, like the Back to the Future moment where you actually change the narrative. They actually changed the narrative because if that guy was basically, I don't know, harmed in any way, it would have been like, say, Black Lives Matter protesters, I don't know, harm or even kill ex-police officer, ex-grandfather, grandfather, blah, 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 so forth. It could have been a total different situation right now, okay? By them doing all this, what they did, it changed the whole narrative. So they changed everything straight away. And now, just by that, they're inspiring so many people right now. I mean, the thing is, it's like we've been given this, like this leapfrog to basically just do what we have to do on a bigger scale, basically. Okay, so for me, it's a no-brainer. UTCAI is a major thing. It's a global thing because everybody needs help. The logo isn't Patrick anymore. The logo means somebody helping another person. Okay, and the thing is, if more people start to help other people rather than worrying about this and that and blah, blah, no thinking. Patrick never thought twice. The guys never thought twice. They just saw a person that needed help. Simple as that. So for me, this is what UTCAI means, help, right? And don't think twice, right? Don't ever think that person doesn't need help. There's a lot of people where they could be look like they're influential, they're this, that. Those are some of the most lonely people out there. Everybody needs help, okay? And UTCAI are here to basically try and help as much as possible.
Okay, and I think that's a really good segue into perhaps learning a little bit more about how UTCAI is structured as an organisation. So I'm obviously very familiar with you guys. We've spoken a number of times before in the past. Can you just explain to the viewers the four pillars, and perhaps before you do that, just provide some colour around why you chose those particular pillars and how you think that that those pillars can help move and advance where we are as a society today? And that, again, that's open to you guys. Any one of you can take that.
Chris, you've been a bit
Chris.
quiet. Where are you, mate?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks, Chris. And also thanks, Dentsu, for having us on as well. The first pillar that we can go into is something that's very close to myself, which is mental health and wellness. The reason why, for myself, mental health and wellness is very dear to myself. As a human being, it's natural and it's normal for us all to go through mental health challenges, whether we recognize them or not. There are a lot of stigmas within our community, within society, stigmas and taboos about mental health, going down to sort of trying to be brave, trying to be a man, trying to be like the confident guy and not showing any sort of vulnerability, to things that are impact us in our daily lives, like at work, unconscious biases, ethnic pay gaps, just different things that are contributory factors that can sort of impact us on a daily basis, and lead into things like anxiety, depression, bipolar disorders, post-traumatic stress, a lot of challenges that we are faced with in life and sometimes don't have the resources, awareness or access to finding solutions. I personally have gone through that as well in the sort of lifestyle that I used to live before the lockdown, and I've been fortunate and blessed enough to have been able to tap into those resources, and have an amazing network around me, and be able to pull myself through. So it's a service that we want to offer to the community from UTCAI, and that we can actually help to sort of steer society, humanity into the right direction.
And do you think that we obviously are very, very aware right now, as a world, not even just a country, that mental health is really, really very important. And given what we're going through with COVID and lockdown and people spending lots of time on themselves, then mental health is clearly an issue that I think affects us all. But do you think that mental health perhaps exposes itself more in the Black community than perhaps others?
Absolutely. There's a lot of contributory factors that can lead to mental health. Things like racism that go into it, things like injustice at work, things like discrimination, things that we literally leaving your door on a day-to-day basis can impact you mentally. And then as well as having things like family to raise, having children to raise, having to earn an income and everything else you're faced with, from police brutality and all the other sort of things that happen on a daily basis. Those are things that can actually contribute towards it. So there is a higher risk of a lot of cases, like I've mentioned, depression, anxiety, suicide. There's a lot of cases that do happen, and there are a lot of higher rates of people within the Black community of people who are actually being sectioned, and sometimes incorrectly, because of a lack of understanding, and a lack of awareness in regards to our society. So once again, it's spreading a light, and also connecting to a lot of experienced, qualified, and amazing people who are already moving mountains within this industry. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. What we're mainly trying to do on the mental health side is actually connect with other organisations that are doing amazing things already, connecting with the community, and bringing them on board and seeing how we can add value to their services.
That's great. Thank you for that, Chris. It seems like that's a massive challenge, and particularly given where we are now, I think a challenge that probably is more important now than it ever has been. Jamaine, I know that you're very much focused on prison and reform. Could you give us a little more colour on why that's important to you, and why you think now that that's an area that you guys should focus on?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because in all my life, I've been living my life. Since the age of 16, I moved to London and from Birmingham, and my childhood life in Birmingham was completely different to how you guys, Londoners, probably experienced yours, where literally when they say you can have your front door open and run someone else's house, your mate's house, that's how we lived. We lived like that. It was when I grew up, it was really fun. I had a great childhood, and then when my mum got married to a Londoner and moved me to London, I just felt the atmosphere of growing up in London, from Birmingham straight to Brixton. It was like, wow, this is a bit different, you know. And then from then I just saw how the police were communicating with the young boys and girls, and it was nice. It was nice. I did. I got pulled over not pulled over. I got stopped one time. But you know what? I got treated well. That one time, and it was like more mature, more older police officers just asked me, why did I have a knife on me? Because that's what I did. I had a knife on me, and not for no purpose of my own, not to be scared or nothing like that. I just found it in my stepdad's junk box. So I just took it. Yeah, dealt with me nicely. All right, come on, son. Talk to me. Boom, boom, boom. Dealt with me correctly. I've assumed.
I think, is anyone else having some problems hearing Jamaine?
Am I still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you're back, Jamaine. Let's just try that again.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
I keep on talking, but I can't see my picture. But yeah, so literally from then, I've always had the police in my mindset growing up, how they deal with people. And then as I got older, I'm 43 years old now, I've experienced more issues with the police, the way they stereotype us, the way we are more likely to be arrested and searched, stop and search more than my white friends. Because when I grew up in Brixton, a black area, but it's really mixed, and literally my friends were mixed between white, black, Chinese, Indian, different people. So then I started working in Brixton Recreation Centre, and then I used to get the kids in for free because I couldn't afford to actually come in and play football or go swimming. So I used to set up little stuff for them, like football tournaments, uni hop tournaments, roller disco, little things like that, just to give them an outlet. Because when I was growing up, we had play areas in our local areas. We had sports hall where we could just go and use and do whatever we want to do and enjoy ourselves as children. But what I felt when I used to work in Brixton Rec, that we wasn't open for our kids just to come in whenever they like, only if it's a 6-week holiday purpose. So literally, go on, question.
Sorry, so do you think that the younger black generation often don't have the facilities to be able to exercise their thoughts, their minds, to get stimulus? Is that what you think that's happening?
Well, it's not just black, but yeah, a lot of black and poor young white, Indian, whatever color you want to say, people. Yes, the community, the government has stripped away all that type of enjoyment for the young kids to be kids. So what's going to happen? They're going to just hang around the street. So 4 or 5 black kids standing on the corner, they'll call them a gang, and they will get stereotyped, and then they'll get stopped and searched once again, and then they will try and either put something on them or not. It depends.
So I mean, I wasn't planning on having questions at this stage, but there has been a question that's come in from an ex-police officer who says, being an ex-police officer fits into the general belief that police officers often do not understand or agree with BLM. What can the Met and police services generally do to improve this? And by the way, he says he fully supports what UTCAI are doing. He thinks you guys are amazing and inspirational.
Well, for me, it boils down to training, because a lot of police officers don't want to police in their own areas, and that's fine, okay. But you have to know your community. You have to know your people. It's not just black people you have to know, but you have to know whoever, the type of people that live in the area that you're policing, how to approach, how to deal with them. What words should you be saying? Because I got accused of something the other day, and the only words that the police officer told me was, you're under arrest, put your hands behind your back, taser, taser, taser. These are the 3 words that the guy used to me, with no communication, no investigation, no nothing, no nothing. And because he was a young white police officer, about 20, no, sorry, I say 20, probably about 25, and I'm a 6'1" black guy. So he was probably scared. But so what? What, you still got to treat me the same way if I was a white guy, blonde hair, blue eyes. And this is what we're asking for, and we're not getting that.
Right. Thanks, Jamaine. I think you've raised some really quite salient points there, and certainly given me something to think about around how you adjust the mindset of other people. Racism isn't, to my mind, isn't just an issue that black people have. It's a systemic racism, and I think through education and certainly in the police force, I think there are ways in which we can all learn to communicate in better ways that fit the way in which we communicate. So it leads me quite nicely, I think, to Lee. We're talking about the younger generations, Lee, and I know that you're very much focused on the mentoring and youth development side.
Yeah, I am. Hi, Chris. Anyway, yeah, I'm dealing with youth development, and myself, not growing up with a father figure or anyone to look up to, or probably looking up to the wrong people. I think a lot of these kids need that, someone to look up to. I think with UTCAI, with us, with what we've done on that day, can be quite inspiring, and them to look up to us, you know, because a lot of them got nowhere to go, nothing to do, you know. So we've with the youth development side of things, we could be connecting with some organisations. Like, obviously there's not a lot of youth clubs and stuff and places for them to go, while they're probably, like what Jamaine said, these boys, young kids, a younger generation, are just hanging out in groups and not doing much, you know. There's supposed to be like 12,000 youth clubs in the UK, but obviously, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, there was youth clubs everywhere, you know. But obviously, with funding and stuff, they've been cut down and locked off, you know. And like, probably what we got 32 boroughs in London. 26 provided us some data in 2019, and we had 214 youth clubs in 2011. And by 2019, we only had 190. That's 104 youth clubs just cut off. So youth ain't got nowhere to go. So, and again, 540 youth workers with no work, with no jobs, you know. So when we talk about these the younger generation, nothing for them to do, nowhere to go, hanging around, getting into trouble, stabbings and all these other things, you know. Kids at the age of under 16, after school, 2 hours after school, are more likely to get stabbed. That shows that's a correlation of obviously youth clubs declining, and obviously youth violence in London City going up.
And that sounds to me to be a big and probably a very expensive problem to fix. Just interested to know if your approach to resolving these issues is more around working with governments, or whether you guys are working with the private sector to help fund some of this stuff.
Well, it would have to be to start off, would have to be government, you know, because where would the money come from? Because obviously they seem to magically find money for other things, you know, and they've made these cuts and found out that, and probably think that these things are less important, you know, cutting all these funds. But you know, but we can't give up on the youth, you know, they're the next generation coming up, you know, so we can't give up on them because they're only just going to end up being misguided. They need us old heads to help them, to guide them, like basically what we done when we went out there on the 13th for the protest. Really, you know, they need mentors, they need people to look at positive role models to look up to, you know.
Right, right. Well, I think it's absolutely clear you guys are extremely positive role models, and just there is a fourth column to this, and Patrick, I know this is something, given all of the press you've had around fitness and health, that it's only natural that fitness and health should be your pillar. Do you want to kind of just tell us a little bit about what you see your challenges are, Patrick, and how you're using your influence to change that and build fitness and well-being into the lives of young people?
So just to slightly correct you there, Chris, mine is education.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I've worked a lot with children. When I left the corporate sector, I did a lot of work with children, and I still do currently. So for those that don't know, I'm a sports coach, an athletics coach, licensed by the UK, and I mentor children as well. So it kind of it just felt natural to go into education. And for me, where I want to start with education is in the PRUs, as they call them, and they're known as pupil referral units. So I'm not too sure if many of your watchers or listeners know what that these things, but basically they're units that children that get removed, kicked out of mainstream schools. This is where they go. They're deemed no longer good enough for them for normal school, and they get put into these PRUs, these referral units. And then from there, if they're lucky enough to complete being in the referral unit, they may go on to college if they're lucky enough. But a lot of them from there end up on the streets and then go into gangs and stuff. So I want to intervene at this stage in the PRUs, and I want to go in and mentor these children, and using fitness, using health, a bit of education as well, but just be a role model and a mentor for these young children, just to show them that just because they're no longer in a mainstream school, there are still individuals out there in society who care about them. And that's where I want to start.
Right, and so is this something that's actively happening now? I'm acutely aware that you guys are much in demand, and I think it's often a challenge it's not always a challenge to be able to talk about the stuff that concerns you, because there are platforms out there that give you guys opportunities, such as the platform you've got today. But have you collectively, as a team of people, actually started to execute on this, or are you still in very much in the planning stages?
Well, it's a bit of both, really. We have actually done a bit of work. We're working with Legacy. I don't know if people know Legacy. It's a big organization in Croydon, which is it's a massive newly developed youth center almost, where children can go. And we're working in conjunction with Legacy. We're also, I'm actually going to a school this Thursday to talk in a special needs school, to talk to some of the children there and help mentor them and meet them. And it's just one of those things. It's like the modern day superhero doesn't have to have a cape, It's the NHS nurses, and it's the individuals in the community who are doing things for the betterment of the children and the community as a whole. These people are the modern day superheroes. And it's nice to be able to go into schools and meet children and inspire them, so they could maybe one day do the same.
And the coverage you guys have got is not just domestic, right? It's global. Have you guys faced off with any other organisations globally that are doing similar things in their own regions?
Troy?
Apologies on that one. Yeah, on a global scale, we've done some work at the moment with O2. As a company in the UK, we are working with other organisations. I think Patrick has got a panelist conversation with a college in Boston, and there's other companies that we are in negotiation with at the moment. So it's expanding on a wider scale, and each day we are getting more and more people just referring to us, or basically speaking to us with regards to wanting to work with UTCAI. So we're just going through that at the moment. But yes, we are honoured to what's happening at the moment. And as I stated before, you know, long may it continue. So long as we all collectively working to make that change, that's the most important thing.
I'd actually say majority of the things are actually being put on hold in regards to international wise due to COVID, because we can't actually fly anywhere. But I'm sure they'd love for us to be in certain areas, be there in person, basically. We had a lot of traction from Australia. We've had a lot of traction from, say, Holland. It's been good. It's been good. I mean, it's all been positive. That's the main thing.
And Richard, one for you. How do you? Well, we're a media organisation. We are a global media organisation. We are probably top 5 in the world in terms of our coverage and our outreach as an organisation. What can organisations like Dentsu do to help organisations like UTCAI?
Well, the first thing I found out about a lot of major companies, corporate companies and media companies, it's okay saying they want to help, but helping with a begging bowl and helping in regards to putting people in positions are 2 different things. Every company I've gone into so far, there's not really people of colour in regards to management positions. Okay, there's not enough people in positions where they can say, no, something that's actually wrong. We can't really say that. Okay, and the people that are there, they feel afraid to actually talk. Right? They should actually understand if a person is saying something is wrong in a company, no matter what level they are, listen to what they're saying. Right? So like microaggressions and unconscious bias is in these companies, and there's not enough people that are higher up to say, you know something, this is actually wrong. Even at advertising companies, I work with a lot of advertising companies, and you'll see adverts come out of the blue, and you're thinking, well, who co-signed this? So a lot of companies you go through, right, even yourself, it's like basically having people in a higher position to say, you know something, this isn't right, we should approach it this way, we should do this, we should do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's basically employing people that understand how to do that job. Okay, I've been running a course for 8 years where we train people up to get inside media, because a lot of times they say, you're not trained. And the things are like, okay, fine, we'll train them then. And then what are you going to say after? Okay, so you have to get people in that actually, and young people, I'll say, they're not afraid to speak up. That's one thing about young people, they're not afraid to speak up. So it's worthwhile getting young people in, sometimes just train them up and let them grow inside the companies. But like, there's always usually some sort of ceiling that people get to, and they get frustrated in that ceiling, so they end up leaving that company. Right? I worked in one company for how many years, and I went back to that company after like 15 years to do a seminar on unconscious bias. And that's because there was somebody working at that company, and she was asking, how many people of color work in this company, and yet there's not one person on a senior level? And that's because everybody got frustrated and left. Okay, so it's like you have to, companies like yours have to start to employ people that can do the job. That's the main thing, they can do the job, but also speak up when things are unjust.
And do you think that the funnel for Black applicants is really the responsibility of the corporate? Do you think that we're seeing enough Black people apply for these positions?
You know what's funny? There's a lot of people that do want to apply. I mean, okay, I'll give you a prime example. I'll say it straight. I applied for a job I was doing as a consultant for a company. I did it for a year, and it was set up to a certain standard. And I thought, okay, brilliant. So basically now the job's actually come up, and they said, right, you'd have to apply for the job you've been doing as a consultant for a year. I applied for the job. They actually basically said to me, we feel that you're too overqualified. I'm like, sorry? We don't feel we can afford you. I'm like, well, I know the fee, I know what the job is, I'm the one that created the job. Okay, and I'm not going to say the name, but basically it's a major company. And I thought to myself, wow, what is wrong with these companies? Okay, and I've seen it happen to many people where like, there's excuses sometimes. It's like, they can't actually believe that you can do those things you say, right? Or they'll second guess you in certain ways. Or sometimes you might get employed based on what you can do, you get in there and then you can't do what you're supposed to do. So now you're like a caged animal in a position, right? If you know what you're doing, we can't help to basically do it very good, right? That's one thing about me, is like, if I'm gonna do a job, I have to do it to the best of my abilities, okay? Now, the last thing I need is anything to be stopping doing my well. We want to work together, same direction.
Right.
And a lot of times I've seen a lot of like second guessing in situations sometimes, and I'll see counterparts where there's no second guessing going on at all. And I'm sure Chris and Patrick, they've worked in certain companies and corporate companies, and I'm sure they've seen the same sort of thing happen to them. Okay, we will always be second guessed in certain ways, and it's downheartening sometimes. You end up saying, you know, so I don't need this in my life.
Right.
It messes with your mental states. Put it away. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, and so we've got 10 more minutes left. I've got a couple of questions lined up from some of the viewers, but I really want to get a sense from you guys as to if you think that the whole BLM movement, the marches that got you guys to where you are now, if you think that they've achieved what they set out to achieve. And it's a pointy question because, you know, we don't really see much BLM in the news now, whereas historically, over certainly the last couple of months, it was very prominent in the news headlines. So I just want to get a sense from you guys as to what you think it achieved. And it's an open question.
I would say something. I mean, well, when you say achieved, this is going to be an ongoing thing for some time yet, I believe. So, yeah, I wouldn't say they've achieved their goal or reached their goal. But what I would say, like I think I mentioned earlier, that they've opened the conversation and they've created a platform for everybody to be a part of, groups like us, initiatives like ours. Because I mean, a lot of us maybe have different viewpoints or see things just a little bit slightly different, but ultimately we're all striving for the same thing, you know, and that's like equality across the board for everybody. Okay, so yeah, I believe that with BLM, who knows what their ultimate goal is or was, but we know what ours is, and I think that we can just be grateful for the platform that they've given us and everybody else. And the conversation is here, and it's not going away anytime soon. And there needs to be change. And you know, at ground level, where we are, where we're going to be doing lots of stuff, but obviously, you know, in the government and the corporates, you know, they need to change too. You know, and collectively, if we all make those changes, you know, we'll have a better world, man, a more fairer world.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. That was a great response. Let's kind of slide on into some of these questions now. Rosie Chadwick has a question for you guys. She says, you speak of being fathers. What are your hopes for your children and grandchildren growing up in this world?
Well, since I've got grandchildren, I'll ask that. I'm the only one. Thanks for the question, Rosie. Was it Rosie?
It was Rosie, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, I think I've said it on numerous interviews that I just want my children, my grandchildren, to be judged, just like Martin Luther King said, by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. Okay, they're all, you know, my daughters currently, they're well-educated individuals, they're creative individuals, they have many talents, many skills, and I hope and I'm sure my grandchildren will too. And I just want them to be judged on those characteristics and not by the color of their skin.
Right. And any other guys? Have you got views on this? Clearly, Patrick's the only real old boy on the call. Perhaps what's you guys with?
Unfortunately, Patrick isn't the only old guy, and I'll be the first to put my hands up. Yeah, I echo what Patrick says. I'm a father as well, so I understand the challenges that most of our young children are going through, and as children on the whole, I hadn't mentioned to you before, I do mentoring. I'm chairman for a football club, so I look after about maybe 60 to 70 players, and the age varies from 13 up to about the age of 51, 52. So there's all different dynamics, all different colors, all different backgrounds and so forth. So we see the challenges that they face, and you know, being fathers and being there to give that support. There is an African saying, it takes a village to train a child. And I believe that we all have a responsibility in our community. If we see any children going stray, irrespective of their color, to be able to step in and to influence in a positive way of what we can do to help them to grow. That's the only way we're going to make this world a better world. At the end of the day, as I've touched on it on many occasions, it's about that human touch is about humanity. And it's so important that we're there to support, to encourage, and to empower. That's what we're here for. So hopefully as fathers, I hope that people may see that in all of us. And I recognize it in all the other young guys who's done this stuff on the UTCAI moment, and people around the country that's doing similar things. So if we can echo that on a global scale, that would be phenomenal.
Great, thank you for that. And so we've got a question around that's kind of around culture and around education. And I'm aware, you know, both my parents are Jamaican. I grew up in a very Jamaican household under Jamaican rules, which sometimes didn't allow me to do some of the things that perhaps some of my white friends were able to do. But we've got a question from Kelechi here, and Kelechi asks, isn't it high time we went back to our African roots by encouraging an Afrocentric educational system? I believe our problems stem from disregarding our roots and heritage. It's a very big question and we don't have much time left, but does anyone want to take a stab at responding to that?
Chris.
Well,
Chris.
Yeah, go on, Chris.
Chris
is the Nigerian.
I can easily, great question, Kelechi, and thanks, Chris, for asking it. It's very similar to what Troy's just said. It takes a village to raise a child, and and that change has, as well as we have external forces, like Rich and everybody else was saying, in corporate companies, senior leaders, and places of worship, like people who we look up to, and influencers in society who also have a responsibility for helping us raise that child. That change also does stem from within. And from what Kelechi is saying, if we're a community who have been detached from our culture and our heritage, our ancestral values, and we're still suffering things like ancestral trauma and a lot of unreformed things that we need to sort of heal from, it's going to be really difficult to even embody that change ourselves. And we as a parents, like, the education is going to be a massive wave of education, all levels, from the parents to the teachers to the children themselves, to the people in power. So I completely understand what Kelechi is asking in regards to looking back into what we were doing, what our ancestors were doing, connecting back to that, understanding our roots. Black History Month isn't only in October, can't be condensed into that 1 month. Black history it's a lifestyle. It's something that we should be practicing every day. That goes from our diets to our traditions to our faiths, to language. There's so many things that can that need to be implemented into us understanding ourselves, and that's for us as a culture. But for the rest of society who's interested in learning and being upskilled and educated, that's also mandatory as well, for them to also want to engage and understand and communicate effectively. There is a level of understanding that they will need in regards to our cultures, the same way we've been raised on every other culture, from celebrating things like Christmas to Halloween to everything else that we're raised on. I think we just need to spread it across the board and include our cultures in curriculums, in workplaces, and in society as a whole. So great question, Kelechi.
And a great response. And I think that's a great place to end today's chat. Guys, individually, Patrick, Chris, Jamaine, Lee, Richard, thank you all so much for your time, for your wisdom, for your insight. I hope that you guys continue to do what you're doing. Certainly, if you need help from me, all you have to do is ask. But all that remains for me to do is to thank you again for your time and wish you all the best for the future.
No worries.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dentsu.
Thanks, audience, as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.